She's just a girl, and she confessed to me 3 times, with so many people watching, I couldn't embarrass her. I looked at him deeply, nodded, and turned to leave. His brother asked him, "Brother Lawrence, aren't you afraid Cecilia will be angry?" Lawrence didn't care. "It's just a breakup, what's the big deal? Our 15 years of close friendship, does it not outweigh that empty title?" But later, when he realized that friendship and love are completely different and regretted it, I had already found a new love. At the birthday party, Lawrence asked me to go out to pick up a friend. When I returned, I heard a lively atmosphere in the private room from the door. "Brother Lawrence, do you really not like Cecilia? She's been my tagalong since childhood, how could I like her? Then why are you with her? She confessed to me twice, how could I reject her? You all know I can't stand seeing women cry." The crowd began to jeer. I immediately ignored the friend behind me and pushed the door open to enter. The private room suddenly became quiet. Only Lawrence saw me come in and still grinned mischievously, raising his eyebrows at me. "Cecilia, let's break up, I found you a new sister-in-law." I looked at him hugging that girl who was smiling gently but with eyes full of triumph, and I was stunned for a moment. I didn't know who brought this person to my birthday party, and I didn't understand what they were doing at that moment. Lawrence let go of her and stood up, pretending to be troubled, but his voice carried a teasing tone that everyone could hear. "What, are you unhappy?" He reached out to touch my head, his action gentle, but the words he spoke were chilling. "Brother has been playing this couple game with you for so long." I was still a bit slow to react, blinking dumbly. To him, this was just a game? I've always known that Lawrence is playful and flirtatious. But I didn't expect him to think of our relationship this way. Perhaps to him, this wasn't even a relationship? But I've liked him for 6 years. I mustered the courage to confess to him twice before finally becoming his girlfriend. At that time, I was excited for a long time, talking to my best friend on the phone all night about how much I liked him. Now he's telling me that it was all just role-playing, and on my birthday, he has a new lover? I could hardly comprehend it, and when I spoke, my voice was hoarse. "Lawrence, what are you thinking? Today is my birthday." I stared at him intently, hoping to hear from his mouth that this was just a joke. Lawrence smiled and patted my head, completely unfazed. "It's okay, these are all our friends, don't they know how close we are?" I looked at the people in the private room who were watching the show. My eyes swept over their faces, full of schadenfreude, and suddenly I couldn't understand. Was this my birthday party or Lawrence's friends gathering? We've been together since we were 7, who can compare to us? I bit my lip tightly, tears welling up in my eyes. My heart shattered into pieces, but I still wanted to ask clearly. "Then why did you break up with me?" "Cecilia, don't be temperamental. Mia is a girl who confessed to me 3 times, and today with so many people watching, I couldn't embarrass her. You know, 3's the limit. I couldn't embarrass her, so I embarrass myself?" The man in front of me was handsome and charming, even now, saying such hurtful words with a captivating smile. Since Lawrence was in his teens and I started liking him, I've known that he loves to play and is a playboy. Just like Lawrence's mother once joked about Lawrence's father, not easy to hold on to. But I thought that Lawrence and I would be like his parents, living a life of quarrels but still staying together for a lifetime. I didn't expect that it was all just my wishful thinking. I tried hard to keep my eyes wide open, afraid that blinking would make tears fall. Through the mist in my eyes, I took a deep look at Lawrence and his new girlfriend. I nodded and turned to leave. As I walked out the door, I felt drained and leaned against the wall. After I left, the private room almost exploded. "Wow. Awesome. Brother Lawrence, you're really not afraid of Cecilia being angry?" Lawrence hugged his new girlfriend and shrugged indifferently. "I can't really be with her forever, so it's better to say it now. When she sees the fireworks I prepared for her tonight, she'll be so touched. She's always liked these things since she was little." Hearing this, the private room fell silent for a moment. Lawrence looked at the crowd, who were as if facing a great enemy, and laughed. "You don't understand my relationship with Cecilia. I've known her since we were 7, for 15 years. She grew up following me around, and when we went to different universities, she cried so much that she had a fever for several days. Doesn't this friendship outweigh the empty title of boyfriend and girlfriend? It's just a breakup, don't think too much. Cecilia has always been stubborn, but as long as I coax her, she'll be fine immediately. I leaned against the wall weakly, listening to these words coming through the door crack. I waved away the waiter's hand that came to help me and slowly walked out. It was only a few steps, but each step was painful. It was as if someone was scraping him from my heart with a sharp knife, and the pain was like blood gushing out continuously. Step by step, I slowly walked out of the Heisher Hotel and stood by the roadside. Finally, my legs gave way, and I squatted down. How could I like such a fool? A self-righteous fool who can't even distinguish between love and friendship. Or perhaps, he has always distinguished them clearly and was just playing with me. I tried to comfort myself that it was lucky to see Lawrence's true colors through this incident. After all, don't people say that if your partner cheats before marriage, it's a blessing? I wanted to smile, but I couldn't even manage a bitter smile, and the sadness in my heart didn't ease at all. People passing by looked at me, the sun was setting, and the sky was gradually darkening. I tried hard to wipe away the tears from the corners of my eyes and took out my phone to call my best friend. The call was answered in 2 seconds, but the person on the other end didn't sound very friendly. What? Want to tell me again how much you love him? I broke up. My voice was hoarse. The person on the other end was stunned and stopped being sarcastic. Are you at the Heisher Hotel? Elena's anxious voice came from the phone, and the grievance in my heart instantly surged out. But I didn't want her to worry, so I could only say with a crying voice, Wait there, I'll come right away. Elena's voice was interrupted, and a somewhat anxious low voice came from the other end. Elena, there's an important client meeting later. Upon hearing this, I quickly said, You go ahead with your work, I'll just take a taxi home. I knew that Elena was interning at her family's company recently, and I heard that her brother was very strict with her. If she left the client to come to me, she would probably be scolded again. No way. Elena thought for 2 seconds and came up with a good idea. You go to the Blue Night Host Club first and wait for me. I'll see the client quickly and come over. Before I could refuse, I heard her say to the assistant next to her, Have the host club send a male host to pick up Cecilia. She emphasized, a handsome one, the kind that can make her forget about that scumbag Lawrence at first sight. Send the new top host. The Blue Night Host Club was invested and opened by Elena, and I had secretly followed her there a few times before. Originally, I just wanted to cry to my best friend and maybe go home and sleep it off, but now thinking about it, lying in the arms of a handsome guy and getting drunk might help me sleep better. I choked and agreed, okay. But I didn't expect the top host to come so quickly, and he drove a low-key black Lamborghini. Get in the car. The man in the driver's seat spoke in a somewhat cold tone. I widened my eyes slightly. Do hosts nowadays have this kind of style? But his face was indeed good-looking, with a high-nose bridge and deep eyes visible even under the dim street lights, and slightly pursed thin lips. I was stunned and didn't move for a while. Did Elena send you? I confirmed with him, not wanting to get into the wrong car. He got out of the car and opened the door for me, acquiescing. I had been, holding back, and feeling uncomfortable for a while, and now with someone beside me, I wanted to talk. I tried to make conversation. You don't have to stick to your persona, it's okay. The man remained silent. I sat in the car, closer to this man, and became more puzzled. His clothes and watch were all high-end custom-made, looking very luxurious. Are counterfeit goods this good now? The person next to me was seriously driving, and the atmosphere in the car was a bit cold. I originally wanted to find something to say to ease the pain in my heart, but I didn't expect the top host Elena called to be so aloof. So I also closed my mouth. The scene of Lawrence hugging that girl and telling me to break up replayed in my mind over and over again. I had liked him openly and secretly for so many years, mustered the courage to confess twice, and in the end, all I got was his sentence, I'd been playing this couple game with you for so long. I really couldn't understand it. Did he love me or not? If not, why was he so good to me since childhood? Why did he always come to my house when his parents quarreled, saying that he could only sleep holding my hand? Why did he kiss me when I confessed the second time? But if he loved me, why did he break up with me just because another person confessed to him a few times? And why on my birthday? Looking at the constantly receding street scene outside, my tears fell again, from quietly dropping tears at first to sobbing louder and louder, unable to stop for a while. A hand with distinct knuckles and slender fingers reached over and handed me a tissue. "Don't cry." The man seemed not used to comforting people, and his voice was stiff. Unlike his coldness, the tissue seemed to have a perfume scent. In an instant, only one thought came to my mind: no wonder he's a host who earns so much money, he really pays attention to details. I took it, wiped my tears, and took 2 deep breaths. Slowly calming down, I belatedly felt a bit embarrassed for crying so heartbreakingly in a stranger's car. I forced myself to cheer up and looked at the other person in the car. "You guys in this line of work make quite a lot of money, huh?" I asked with a trembling voice. The car was silent, and I felt a bit awkward, adding, "It's okay if you don't want to talk." I thought, maybe that's the pride of a top host. It does make quite a lot of money. Hearing this, I asked again, "What time do you usually work until?" "My working hours are irregular. When I'm busy, I might work all night." "Ah, all night." Through the tears in my eyes, I glanced at him sideways, subtly looking him up and down. With his looks, he probably works all night quite often. I understand. As I was thinking, my phone suddenly dinged with a few messages. "Cecilia. Don't come to the host club." "What's wrong?" "I don't know which bastard was bribed by my brother and snitched." "Huh? Then should I just have the host drop me off somewhere?" I looked at the host next to me. I originally thought that on the day I was dumped, I could drink with a handsome guy to feel better, but it seems there's no chance. I felt a bit regretful. Who knew Elena's next message would scare me? "Host? What host?" "The host I sent out has already been stopped by my brother's people." "What?" I was dumbfounded. I secretly took a photo of the man next to me and sent it to Elena. Then whose car did I get into? The other side didn't reply for 2 minutes. I was a bit nervous, secretly rubbing my hands. "Are you cold?" the man next to me asked. After staying in the car for a while, he seemed less cold than before. I became more scared. "Elena. Where are you? Reply quickly." I typed furiously on my phone. Cecilia, that's my brother. Jasper." "What?" "This is the brother that my best friend complains about every day, the one who's even more controlling than a father?" I suddenly looked up and secretly glanced at the man's face next to me. Why didn't I notice earlier? Although he doesn't look exactly like Elena, if you look closely at the nose and eyes, isn't he just a more angular version of Elena? Oh no, what should I do? Is God planning to take me away on my birthday? First, the bamboo horse I've liked for 6 years publicly breaks up with me, and then, on the way to meet a host, I end up in my best friend's controlling brother's car. Haha, I might as well die. What's wrong with you? The man next to me was still driving steadily, but his tone was a bit complicated. If you're feeling bad, you don't have to force a smile. Maybe he was afraid I was crazy. No, no. The corner of my mouth twitched. Dad. I mean, brother, just drop me off up ahead. Jasper looked ahead, his voice seeming a bit colder than before. Up ahead? I didn't pay attention, just nodded, hoping he would drop me off somewhere. Who knew that the person next to me would step on the gas, and the scenery outside the window quickly flew by. It's so late, going to a bar is dangerous. If you want to drink, go home and drink. Ah? Is that a bar? I didn't notice, I just wanted to get out of the car. Help, Elena. All I wanted was to go home and cry alone after being dumped. I was confusedly brought to the Jiang family. As soon as I got out of the car, Elena rushed over. Cecilia, how are you? Despite getting into trouble, she didn't hide from her brother and only wanted to care about me. Being held tightly by Elena, my tense heart relaxed, like a drowning person finally finding a reliable piece of driftwood. Do you think I'm too pathetic? My throat seemed to be choked, and speaking was painful. Elena hugged me and loudly retorted, how could that be? Don't always doubt yourself. A pleasant voice came from behind, and I suddenly remembered that Jasper was there. I immediately fell silent. Elena pulled me inside. See, even my picky brother thinks you're fine. Don't cry anymore, I'll open my brother's good wine, and we'll drink until we're drunk. Forget that jerk. Elena and I got drunk, and surprisingly, Jasper didn't leave. He was working on his laptop on the sofa. Elena glanced at him, covering her face with her wine glass, and complained to me, workaholic. I tilted my head a bit dazedly and happened to meet Jasper's eyes as he looked up. I blinked, and Jasper seemed to split into 2 or 3, but that handsome face remained the same. There seemed to be some hidden emotion on Jasper's face, but I was too dizzy to see clearly. After a brief eye contact, Jasper casually looked away and called the housemaid, saying something in a low voice. It's nice to have a brother. I was a bit envious. When I was little, I always wanted a brother. Later, a brother really moved in next door. He took me to and from school, helped me chase away bullies, and brought me to his house for dinner when my parents were on business trips. When I was 7, he was like a little adult, holding me as I cried for my parents, gently patting me, Cecilia, don't cry. From now on, Lawrence, will be your mom and dad. I'll be with you, so you won't miss them. Little me was a bit confused, can one person be both mom and dad? Lawrence was stumped. He took my hand to ask his parents. He was spanked by Uncle He and sniffled, saying that he would just be my brother from then on. I came back to my senses from the memory, thinking of what Lawrence said today, and the smile that had unconsciously appeared on my face disappeared again. From now on, I have no brother and no boyfriend. He had said he would be with me forever. I suddenly downed a glass of wine, choking and coughing. Tears fell from my eyes. The siblings looking at me were a bit stunned. Elena was drunk, and Jasper reacted faster. He quickly walked over, took the glass from my hand, and gently patted my back. I looked up at him and smiled. Thank you, Brother Jasper. Suddenly, I remembered that my face was still covered in tears, looking quite messy. I quickly wiped it with my sleeve and continued to smile. As I smiled, tears came out again. Why is it that someone I've never met before can be so kind to me, while Lawrence, whom I've liked for so many years, can hurt me so recklessly? Jasper was stunned for a moment, then pulled my hand down and placed it on the table. He took 2 tissues and wiped my tears. The sleeve is dirty. I was drunk and a bit groggy, even letting him wipe my face without moving. Through the light from the beautiful crystal chandelier above, I seemed to see that the man's ears were a bit red. Is it a bit hot? I pointed to his ears. Your ears are red. Jasper didn't say anything. When I blinked and looked again, he had already stepped back. Do you want more to drink? His voice was a bit hoarse. I looked at Elena, who was already passed out on the table, and shook my head dazedly. If you're not drinking, go upstairs to sleep. Okay. Suddenly, my phone rang, and I slowly reached into my bag to find it. Finally, Jasper took it out for me. He looked at the caller ID, his voice a bit cold. Brother? Answer it? It was a normal question, but for some reason, I vaguely heard some anger in it. He didn't seem to be asking if I wanted to answer the phone, but rather telling me not to. But I still wanted to answer. I took my phone and answered Lawrence's call. I wanted to make things clear. From now on, let's not contact each other. Cecilia, come out, brother will take you to see the fireworks. The voice on the other end was as warm as ever, specially prepared for your birthday. It was as if what happened today never occurred. I began to doubt myself. Was what happened in the private room earlier just my imagination? But I turned my head and saw Elena passed out on the table, still muttering scumbag. Jasper stood beside me, his arm lightly behind me, afraid I might fall. I shook my head to clear it and said firmly, I'm not going, and I won't go in the future. But we always watch fireworks on your birthday. Lawrence sounded anxious, then suddenly realized, it's not because of what happened today, is it? Cecilia, we can't be together forever. Why not? I interrupted him. He sighed, his tone somewhat helpless, as if I was being unreasonable. We've grown up together, I've always seen you as a sister. Hearing this, Jasper, who had been standing beside me, said coldly, hang up. Who's next to you? Cecilia, who's the man next to you? Jasper said again, you're drunk, I'll help you to rest. Be good, give me the phone. I handed him the phone in a daze, and Jasper swiftly hung up. The roaring male voice asking who the man next to me was abruptly stopped. Jasper took the hangover soup from the maid, watched me drink it obediently, then returned my phone and supported my shoulders to take me to the guest room upstairs. In my daze, I seemed to see a slight curve on his lips, but when I blinked, it was gone. I slept at the Zhang's house for the night. Perhaps because of the hangover soup, I didn't have a headache. When I went downstairs, I saw Jasper in sportswear. He seemed to have just come back from a morning run, with sweat on his forehead and slightly damp hair. He looked like a handsome man with wet hair. I shamefully swallowed, awkwardly greeting him, good morning, Jasper, sorry for the trouble. For some reason, I always felt that Jasper noticed me swallowing secretly. The corner of his mouth lifted, he actually smiled. I lowered my head, sorry. He chuckled softly. Let's have breakfast. Sitting opposite Jasper, I felt a bit awkward and suddenly thought of someone. Where's Elena? She's already gone to work. I vaguely heard some coldness in his tone and secretly shivered. Jasper is still too scary. I originally wanted to say goodbye and take a taxi home, but as soon as I picked up my phone, that low-key black Lamborghini stopped beside me. Sit in the passenger seat. I slowly withdrew my hand from opening the back door and obediently said, okay. After last night's interaction, I felt that Jasper should be a good person. But I was still a bit nervous inside. Who knew that the next second, Jasper turned his head towards me. Are you afraid of me? I uncontrollably trembled, stubbornly saying, no. Jasper chuckled, non-committal. For some reason, I always felt that Jasper had changed a bit. He seemed less cold and distant. But I actually think being a bit cold is fine, after all, this is Elena's father-like brother. The low-key black Lamborghini stopped in front of my house, and as soon as I got out of the car, a figure rushed out from the side. Lawrence tightly grabbed my hand, angrily saying, Cecilia, where did you go last night? Jasper pulled me behind him, his eyes cold as ice. What does it have to do with you? Lawrence clenched his fist, about to swing it, then saw that the man in front of him was the young and accomplished President Jiang. Where I went has nothing to do with you. I hid behind Jasper, only showing my head, looking at Lawrence with anger. Don't you have a new girlfriend? Why are you still bothering me? You're my sister. Lawrence seemed to have not slept well last night, with red eyes and messy hair, looking disheveled. We have no blood relation, and I'm not your sister. Cecilia. Just as I was about to speak, the person in front of me's phone rang. Do you have something at the company? I waved at him. Jasper, go ahead with your work. Jasper glanced at it and turned off the phone. It's nothing. But as soon as he said that, his phone rang again. I gently pushed him. It's okay, it's at my doorstep, he can't do anything. You go handle your business. Jasper looked at the incessantly ringing phone and then at my house's gate. Call your parents out. I quickly nodded, okay. You go now. After Jasper left, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. My parents weren't home anyway. Even if they were, they wouldn't help me. They wished I would stick close to Lawrence, hoping I could make the He family's young master happy so that the He family could give us some benefits. Seeing that Jasper had left, Lawrence came over again. Cecilia, how did you meet him? He frowned. The Jiang family is powerful, not something your family can climb up to. A surge of anger rose in my heart. Is that how you see me? In your eyes, am I such a snob? Lawrence realized he had said something wrong, slapped his mouth, and quickly apologized. Sorry, Cecilia, I said it wrong. Let's go watch the fireworks tonight, okay? Considerate brother's apology. I suddenly thought of what happened yesterday and said coldly, no need. I can't accept the apology of the great young Master Lawrence. Seeing that I was about to leave, Lawrence hurriedly grabbed my hand again. I always set off fireworks for your birthday, you used to love it. I looked at his red eyes and suddenly felt a bit soft-hearted. We've known each other since we were 7, and he has set off fireworks for me for 15 years. This year. I made up my mind. Let's go see it, for the last time. After watching, I'll say goodbye to our 15 years. Under Lawrence's expectant gaze, I slowly nodded. Okay, let's go tonight. Before it got dark, Lawrence was already standing outside my house. Cecilia, let's go. Looking at myself in the mirror, wearing a white dress, I forced a smile. When I was 7, watching the first fireworks with him, I was also wearing a white dress. Since I'm saying goodbye to the past, let's make it ceremonial. The car slowly drove out, heading towards the familiar place. Along the way, Lawrence was chattering as usual, seemingly no different from before. But, at an intersection, the car suddenly turned. I felt that this road was also familiar, as if I had come here with Elena before. Looking up, there was a row of office buildings ahead, the tallest one being the Jiang Group's building. Not going to the usual place? I asked. Lawrence shook his head. It's the usual place, but we're picking someone up here. Hearing this, my heart sank inexplicably. Seeing the girl in a white dress by the roadside of the office building, I knew I was right. I suddenly felt that this person looked familiar, and upon closer inspection, wasn't this the girl who sat behind Lawrence and me in high school? Yesterday in the dim private room, I didn't recognize her. After all, she seemed like a different person, as if her dressing and behavior were deliberately imitating someone. You're bringing her along too? I looked at the girl waving in the distance, my heart felt suffocated, and my hands were trembling with anger. Lawrence didn't think there was anything wrong. She heard about the fireworks and said she wanted to see them too. Before I could say anything, the car had stopped by the roadside. The girl opened the passenger door, saw me inside, and dramatically stepped back. Sorry. She seemed very embarrassed. I didn't see you inside. I thought everyone knew that the passenger seat is for the girlfriend. Then she exaggeratedly covered her mouth. Oh, did I say something wrong? I didn't mean to chase you away, I was just saying. Since when can only girlfriends sit in my passenger seat? Lawrence said impatiently, just sit in the back. I ignored the green tea standing outside. I just looked at Lawrence and said seriously, yesterday, you broke up with me at my birthday party. Today, you're bringing your new girlfriend to watch the birthday fireworks you set off for me. Is that what you mean? Lawrence frowned. Cecilia, I told you, our few months of dating don't count. Brother was just playing with you. We can't be together forever. He seemed to think I was being unreasonable. Girls like her are my type. Besides, she confessed to me 3 times, so it's only right that I agreed, right? Can't you understand your brother? I was so angry that my head was buzzing from his words. I raised my hand and slapped him hard. The sound echoed in the car. Lawrence was stunned by my full-strength slap. The green tea outside couldn't stand it anymore and pulled me out of the car. How dare you hit my boyfriend? Her hand with long manicured nails was raised high. The next second, it was firmly grasped and thrown away by a strong hand. I looked up and saw that it was Jasper. He glanced at me, seemingly checking if I was injured. The moment our eyes met, I saw the suppressed storm in Jasper's eyes. Young Master Lawrence, please take care of yourself and your girlfriend. Lawrence and the girl were frozen by the authority in Jasper's words. After 2 seconds, Lawrence suddenly realized that he had lost face. What does our conflict have to do with you? Lawrence touched his red face, angrily shouting, Cecilia, come here. I originally planned to watch the fireworks today and say a proper goodbye. Looking at the detestable couple in front of me, I shook my head. Staring at Lawrence, a wave of grief and anger surged in my heart. I was blind to like you before. Let's leave it at that. From now on, don't come looking for me. Ignoring Lawrence's shouts, I turned and walked away. Before leaving, Jasper sneered. Young Master Lawrence, just stay with your copycat girlfriend and don't bother Cecilia anymore. You don't deserve her. Behind me, Jasper's footsteps gradually approached. I asked, you even know about copycats? I'm not an old fogey. Jasper was a bit dissatisfied with my question. Really? I turned to look at him. He pursed his thin lips and confessed, I learned it from Elena. I was amused by his expression and burst out laughing. Suddenly, there was a weight on my head. I looked up and saw it was Jasper's hand. Caught by me, he still unembarrassedly rubbed my head before withdrawing his hand. Are you sad? I was stunned. A little. It would be a lie to say I'm not sad. After all, he's someone I'd been with for so many years and truly liked for so many years. But I'm also trying to convince myself that now I've seen Lawrence's true colors. Take some time to stay away from the scumbag, it's good. People have to be strong when facing things, right? After I finished speaking, the atmosphere became quiet. I looked up and met Jasper's eyes. In those deep eyes, there seemed to be some emotion, almost overflowing. What's wrong? I stopped and asked with concern. Jasper didn't speak. After a long while, as if he could no longer hold back, he pulled me close and hugged me. In an instant, I was a bit confused. I gently pushed him, what are you doing? Not only did Jasper not let go, but he held me tighter. He embraced me tightly, his voice hoarse, don't move, I want to hold you. At this moment, I should have pushed him away, but for some reason, I really listened to him and stayed still, letting him hold me. I suddenly remembered that I had actually met Jasper before. After Elena's parents died in a car accident. At that time, I had just entered university and became good friends with Elena, who shared similar interests. But one night, she received a phone call and instantly broke down, rushing out in her slippers. I happened to be returning to the dorm and saw her. Seeing that something was wrong, I followed her. Elena, what's wrong? Elena was in a daze and didn't answer me, only saying hoarsely, I need to go to the hospital, to the people's hospital. I was really worried about her going out alone in that state, so I grabbed her. I'll take you to the people's hospital. Following her, I learned what happened. Elena's parents were hit by a large truck driven by a fatigued driver on their way home from a charity banquet. The driver in the front seat died on the spot, and Elena's parents in the back seat were sent to the hospital but also passed away that night. During that time, Elena was not in good spirits, so I asked for leave from the counselor to help her. On the day of Elena's parents' funeral, I finally managed to coax Elena, who was almost fainting from crying, to sleep. When I went downstairs, I saw that the brother who had been holding strong to handle the aftermath these days was sitting on the stairs, seemingly asleep. I lightened my steps, but he still heard me and looked up. Those beautiful brown eyes were full of red bloodshot veins. Thank you for your hard work these days. He stood up and nodded to me. I knew that he couldn't say more thanks at the moment. After all, Jasper was only 5 years older than Elena, just a young man who had graduated for a year. After Elena's parents passed away, a group of relatives came out of nowhere, wanting to divide up the Jiang family, but Jasper blocked them all. Clearly, these days, he was the one who had it the hardest. I walked to his side. My condolences. You need to take care of your body, don't exhaust yourself, or your uncle and aunt would be sad. Jasper didn't speak. You've already done a great job protecting the Jiang family from those wolves and tigers. Jasper shook his head gently and closed his eyes. I didn't know if I should continue, but I still wanted to finish. You're so capable, your uncle and aunt would be proud of you. You've been very strong, sometimes you can relax a bit and not be so tense. Jasper just looked at me. I suddenly felt that not only Elena, but also Jasper, who seemed strong, needed comfort. Because, he looked so sad now. I mustered up the courage and opened my arms to him. Do you need a hug? Jasper was stunned for 2 seconds, then strode over and hugged me tightly. He rested his head on my shoulder and didn't move for a long time. I let him hold me. After all, when those brown eyes looked at me with tears, it was too pitiful. I felt something wet on my shoulder. My heart ached, and I raised my hand to gently pat his back. It will be okay, it will get better. But later, when their lives returned to normal, Jasper focused on protecting the business left by Elena's parents, often flying between domestic and international locations, and we never met again. I raised my hand and gently patted his back, just like back then. Jasper, who was holding me, paused. You remember? He let go of me, his brown eyes looking at me. For some reason, I saw a hint of grievance in them. I thought you had completely forgotten me. I smiled awkwardly. How could I? Jasper is so handsome, how could I forget? Haha. My phone dinged a few times, and I took it out to look. It was a message from Elena. Oh my God, finally done. My brother is a devil, I don't know how I offended him. This morning, he suddenly made me deal with such a difficult client. I was about to type a comforting message when she sent a photo. It was a large office, taken from the perspective of sitting in the boss's chair. Hee hee, my brother suddenly ran out, so the president's seat is mine now, ha ha ha. I didn't dare to say that I was looking at Elena's messages right under Jasper's nose, so I could only smile awkwardly at Jasper and quickly walk a few steps away. What's wrong? Something that can make Elena curse is rare. Did Jasper see my phone and remotely punish Elena? Well, don't be scared. Here it comes. Then, a photo was sent. You could tell the photographer was shocked, the photo was a bit blurry from shaking hands. But you could still see the girl in the photo, wearing a bachelor's gown, holding a bouquet of beautiful sunflowers, smiling brightly. Very pretty, if the person in the photo wasn't me. Just then, Jasper walked over. Why are you? He saw the enlarged photo on my phone, and his voice stopped abruptly. We were both silent for a moment. Finally, I spoke first. This photo, how did you get it? It was the first time I saw Jasper with such a caught-in-the-act expression. He pursed his thin lips, and after a few seconds, he finally said, Cecilia, I like you. What? When I saw that photo, I had some guesses, but hearing Jasper say it out loud was still a bit unbelievable. Jasper, the president of the Jiang group, a favored son of heaven, likes me? Seeing me stunned, he took a step closer, lowered his head, and looked at me seriously. As if he had made up his mind, he began to slowly dissect his heart. 3 years ago, when you came to our house to help, I noticed you. That day, I was really tired, so tired that I had no strength to go upstairs and could only sit there. Your comfort and your hug greatly relieved my pressure. He gently hooked my hand, and when I didn't resist, he held it firmly. Later, every time Elena had a vacation, I would indirectly ask her to bring you home to play. But every time, either you were busy and couldn't come, or when you came, I was on a business trip. I stared at him, clearly seeing the grievance in those brown eyes. I wanted to pursue you, but at that time, the Jiang family wasn't stable yet, and I couldn't selfishly pull you into this dangerous vortex. Then later, you got together with that scumbag. I could only secretly watch you. Every year on your birthday, I would send you gifts. I also went to your graduation ceremony. When I took that photo, I was right behind you. His thin lips pursed tighter, and he gripped my hand with more strength. It was as if he was enduring endless sorrow in his heart, trying to restrain it but unable to hold back the pain. Hearing these words, my heart was greatly shocked. I never dared to think that such a favored son of heaven had liked me for so long. Cecilia, can I pursue you? No. Jasper's eyes darkened. It was Lawrence who had caught up. He saw our hands holding together, his eyes bloodshot. "Cecilia, come here." He seemed to think we were still the same as before. I didn't move. Jasper didn't move either, not even sparing a glance at the person beside him. He looked at me seriously and repeated, his voice gentle and pleading, "Cecilia, give me a chance to pursue you, okay?" Both of them stared at me, and no one spoke again, like the calm before the storm. I looked back at Jasper, seeing the plea in his eyes, and finally nodded. "Okay. I won't allow it." Lawrence rushed over to pull me away, but Jasper blocked him. Like a madman, he punched Jasper in the face. "Get out of my way. Cecilia is mine, Cecilia is mine." Jasper pulled me behind him and punched back without showing weakness. "She doesn't belong to anyone, she belongs to herself." The two instantly started fighting. I was stunned for 2 seconds before reacting, anxiously stepping forward to stop them. "Stop fighting. Both of you, stop." Jasper looked at me and withdrew his hand. But Lawrence still swung a punch, stopping just before hitting me. "Cecilia, are you helping him?" He stared at me with red eyes. I didn't understand. "Don't you have a new girlfriend? Why are you still coming to me?" Lawrence was stunned, his lips moving but saying nothing. Jasper sneered from the side. Of course, he realized that his new girlfriend is a copycat. Maybe Lawrence himself doesn't even know who he really likes. I turned to look at Jasper. There was blood on the corner of his mouth, and when I looked over, he started to grimace. "Cecilia, my face hurts." I quickly took out a handkerchief from my bag. "Jasper's face is so handsome, it can't be ruined." "Cecilia. My face hurts too." I didn't even turn my head, not wanting to care about Lawrence at all. "Go find your girlfriend." Lawrence was furious. "I broke up with her." I frowned, turning my head in confusion. "Cecilia, I knew you still care about me." Lawrence touched his injured face and took a step towards me. "I always thought that since we grew up together, I've always seen you as a sister, so we couldn't be together. But just now, I realized that that woman isn't my type at all, her every move is imitating you. I clearly like you." Hearing these words, I suddenly didn't know how to react. I found it laughable and pitiful. The person I've liked for so long is truly a fool. I shook my head. "Who you like has nothing to do with me anymore. Please don't bother me again, we've already broken up." Lawrence couldn't believe it. He came up and grabbed my hand. "Cecilia, you're joking, right? You've liked me for so long, how could you stop liking me all of a sudden?" "Cecilia." "Lawrence, let go." Jasper pulled Lawrence's hand away, "Or we'll call the police." Lawrence didn't listen to Jasper, his eyes stubbornly fixed on me. "Cecilia, say something." "Lawrence, I did like you before. But yesterday, I saw you clearly. It's really over between us." "No, it's not." Lawrence shook his head violently, reaching out to grab me again, but Jasper blocked him. Seeing that I had nothing more to say, Jasper took my hand and walked away. Before turning around, I saw Lawrence's red eyes filled with tears. But I won't feel sorry for him anymore. After walking a few dozen meters, I remembered the wound on Jasper's mouth. He raised his hand to cover it. I blinked. "What's wrong?" After 2 seconds, Jasper replied in a low voice, "Ugly." My expression twisted for a moment, and I tried hard to purse my lips. "Don't laugh." Just as Jasper was about to speak, my phone rang. I picked it up and saw Elena's name on the screen. Under Jasper's dissatisfied look, I walked a bit farther away. As soon as I answered, Elena let out a series of monkey-like screams. "Cecilia, Cecilia! Why didn't you reply to my messages?" "Never mind, I'll tell you some gossip." For some reason, I had a bad feeling. "What gossip?" "Just now. On the street below our company, there was a love triangle drama with love and hate. Wow, those two men were fighting so fiercely. I wonder how pretty that girl is to make two men fight over her. The one who didn't get her is still crying on the roadside." I almost couldn't breathe. Cecilia? Why aren't you saying anything? It's such exciting gossip. I really wanted to hit Elena. Were there many people watching? I asked weakly. Jasper looked at me with some concern. Probably not many, I think. It's after work hours, so there shouldn't be many people in the office buildings. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. What's wrong? Elena asked. Hee hee. I sneered, open your eyes and look. Is the girl in that love triangle drama on the phone right now? Elena was shocked. How did you know? I clenched my fist, gritting my teeth. Guess how I know? Jasper understood what was going on and came over, indicating that he wanted to take the phone. I didn't want to listen anymore and handed him the phone. Elena, you're supposed to be working, and you're slacking off to watch gossip. Jasper's voice was full of authority. I could imagine the explosive sound Elena would make on the other end. Jasper hung up the phone and handed it back to me, instantly returning to his obedient appearance. Cecilia, can I call you that? I nodded. So, can I invite you to dinner today? I looked at the wound on his mouth. How about we take care of your injury first? Jasper smiled. Okay, as long as you agree. He reached out to touch my head, his action gentle, but the words he said were chilling. Thank you, okay. Jasper asked me to wait at the intersection while he went to get the car. As soon as Jasper left, Elena called again. Cecilia, are you going to be my sister-in-law? I smiled, jokingly saying, it depends on your brother's performance. Elena let out a sharp scream on the other end. Ah. My brother will definitely perform well. The car stopped beside me, and I hung up the phone. Jasper opened the car door for me again. Please get in. He sat in the car and looked at the messages on his phone. His eyes suddenly widened. It was the first time I saw him with such a silly expression. I was about to ask what was wrong. The next second, Jasper carefully held my hand. In those brown eyes, there was only my reflection. Cecilia, I will definitely perform well. Thank you for giving me a chance, thank you for coming into my life. A layer of mist quickly covered my eyes, and my throat was choked up, unable to speak. I also wanted to thank him. Thank him for loving me all these years. Thank him for being willing to come into my life.